Hello and welcome to another episode of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune, the Steve and Adam show with Steve and Adam. What's up, Steve?
And that's Adam, and I'm Steve.
Hi, buddy.
Hello. It's been too long, man.
I know. We should do more of these, but you know,
Yeah, we should.
Summer and winter.
Life's got in the way.
Yeah. That's good. I'm not complaining about that. You know.
Nope.
Hopefully other people are having the same problem.
Sorry to everybody, but yeah, life's gotten in the way, and we want to get out more, but we're not.
That's right.
What are we talking about today, Adam?
Well, you know, we've shown everybody how to kind of get started, get your device secure, do all the base, things to kind of get your devices into the basic management. But now, hey, my users are saying I want to do some things. But I'm not an admin on my box. How do I install an app? And oh, the Windows Store is locked down. I can't get there. Well, we need to figure out how to deploy apps and manage apps. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to cover as much as we can that makes sense, where any of the unique things we need to do to help get apps deployed across Windows and Mac OS that's going to be our primary focus. And then we'll touch on some of the other platforms as we're in the system. A lot of it is just repetitive, and so we'll talk about it more than we'll probably demo some of these things. So without further ado, I'm going to let Steve drive. He's got all his VMs and platform ready to go. So we're going to give that a shot.
Cool. So do you want to flick over to my screen, Adam, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, I don't know, but any idea how to do that, Steve?
Perfect.
Hey, look at that. All right.
Yay, we worked out the technology.
Woo!
We've only been using it for a few years. We shouldn't be excited, but we are. We haven't forgotten everything. All right. So let's quickly jump in. Obviously, we've got all of our devices that we've pre-provisioned. They're already in our environment. We've got one of everything that we've gone and built out for testing. So let's jump into our applications. In our applications, we've already published some applications with the previous incarnation of Intune training, where we've reused some stuff with the Google managed Google Play Store and the iOS managed VPP apps and Mac OS VPP apps and etc. So we've already got apps published there, but what we're going to talk through is how we can add more and how we can go and configure that. And we're going to start off on the Windows space because that's pretty straightforward.
I think the point of this is really, we may have touched on those in other videos that weren't app specific, and we will be titling this video something app related, so it'll be a one-stop shop for app stuff. So if you haven't seen it in the other videos, hopefully this one will cover that well for you.
Exactly. So we're going to start off pretty straightforward, where in the Windows space, we've already published our store app previously for Company Portal, but we'll add some more just so we can talk through some of the scenarios associated with that. So we're going to start at the top for the Microsoft Store app new, and we're going to add that. We're not going to go through every single item in that list. There's a couple of key ones that we think are important, and the rest are less important, and we'll say why when we skip over them. So let's go and search the Company Store app or the Microsoft Store app. And the application we're going to look for in here is something that everybody should be using, well, at least the production version, but we're going to be using the VS Code Insider version because we're going to use the standard version via our Win32 app later on. So just to forewarn everybody what we're doing and why we're doing it. So we're going to select our VS Code Insider. We're going to select that. And first things first, you note that it fully populates your application list, which is fantastic because I don't need to go and find my package ID. I don't need to go and figure out what my description should be, publisher, or anything. But I do have a few options here on what we can do. The most important one, I think personally, is the install behavior. So do you want to run us through what that intent does, Adam?
So, yeah, sure.
Let's put you on the spot.
Yeah. Let me So user versus system. System is all users. So everybody on the box gets access to the thing. User is some abomination that I don't know why exists. So user allows you to install
less than 5 minutes.
I know. Into the user space. Many times the user installable apps can install into the user space without administrative rights as well. And so it allows a user to put apps on and manage them within their local profile specifically, without impacting the other users on the box. However, in an enterprise environment, that's not ideal for numerous reasons. One of them, so from an inventory control perspective, you asked me, so we'll break it down. So let's go back to legacy config manager days. If I needed to get a list of all installs of an application across the platform, and I needed to do it for compliance reasons, like, okay, there's licensing involved, whatever. If the app is installed in the user space, I can't collect user space data because I'd have to load all the users' individual registry hives in order to go crawl that data, as an example. And so trying to inventory that data is complicated and takes some extra effort. It's not built into the at least it was not at the time. Intune doesn't even have that. So so anyway, installing it in the system space allows it to be installed for all users on the device. Makes it easier to inventory, easier to manage. You can do an install and uninstall from the system context much easier than doing it in the user space, because to uninstall it from a user, I've got to go log into that user's profile in many cases to be able to do the uninstall. So that's broadly, the deal.
And that makes sense, right? So this is where, like, and especially if you have a secure environment where you're having secure apps, or your threat and vulnerability scans running on your environment, if you put it in the user context and they don't sign in a long while, it doesn't get updated. So this is where putting it as system removes that pain point. And that's why it's super important for the most part, use system. Some applications do need to run in the user context or install in the user context. So be aware of that and understand that you might need to make a change. So this is where you test and validate.
And the most important bit here, and I think that some improvements have been made in this space, but I don't recall. But when this first got released, it only worked in the user space, I believe. And so many people deployed apps in the user space, and then later system became available. And then if you deployed system over the top of user, it didn't work and it would fail and things. So that may still be the case. Not really sure. But anyway, starting with it in the correct case is definitely a good move here. So pay attention.
Definitely. Yep. What doesn't get added automatically for you is the logo for the app, to keep us moving along. So if you're wanting to have a logo there, you would need to select that image yourself and import it and add it in. So do recommend that, but we're not going to do that because we haven't downloaded it. And we just aren't going to do that today because that's not what it's worth. Obviously, you can set categories and the company portal, all of that cool stuff. Don't do what we do, which is actually we're not going to make it there. We're going to make it available for all enrolled devices because it'll come up quicker. And we're going to hit next. And you can see that we've made it available to all devices and it'll just appear. So when we go to our test devices shortly, it should be there by the time we get through all of the other demos and scenarios. And that's really what we're looking to do with this. We're not necessarily going to go through and make sure that they're all there. The important thing to note is under the hood, what's actually happening is it's going and creating a pointer to Winget to be able to then go and install the applications from Winget.
Also.
Or the company store. But that's a different API. Anyway, Adam wants to talk and put some also in there.
You do it every time, so it's my turn. So
I'm good with that.
So the also here is Steve said Winget. And some of you may have just puckered and said, "Oh my God, we got to disable Winget. We can't have Winget, or IT security has already made you disable Winget access, and that's great, and you should, maybe if you care. But Intune uses its own flavor of the WinGet engine. It's got some magic behind the scenes. They're able to leverage WinGet in a way that is not the end user flavor of WinGet that you get to block. And so even if you've got WinGet blocked, ideally, depending on where you've blocked it, if you're blocking it at the OS level using OS level controls, not blocking it at a firewall, Intune should still be able to function and be able to get to the content. If you find that this is not working, you will need to talk to your firewall team, because the thing is, when this gets pushed down, the device itself is phoning out to WinGet to get the content from the internet from WinGet. We're not importing it from WinGet into Intune and then pushing the payload. So just keep really that in mind as you're trying to troubleshoot that.
Yeah, definitely. And what that also means is if you go and deploy something like Creative Cloud from here or Photoshop, each computer is doing the download and it's not fully handling delivery optimization. There is some smarts there, but not what you'd see with the Win32 applications. And we'll talk more about that in a later section. So let's skip over Store App Legacy, because Store App Legacy is blank. It doesn't have anything there. It's been deprecated and will eventually disappear, hopefully. The Microsoft 365 apps here. So this is how you're going to publish Office and everything associated. And Adam will sit there and tell me, no, don't do this, because...
Line of business app thing. The question, it's more of a question. Have they updated this so it's a Win32 and not a line of business app? Does it play nice with other Win32s during the...
I believe so.
I don't know. Because I stayed away from it long ago because that was a problem.
Yes. But also, and the other important thing around the question of whether you need to deploy Microsoft 365 apps Windows 10 and later is, are you getting a device shipped from your OEM with Windows and Office already on there, and all you need to do is activate it to the version that you're running in production? Because that saves you having to download 600 to a gigabyte or 600 meg to a gigabyte of Office installers to get your staff up and running. So that's the alternative as well. In here, it will go through very simply. You can see by default, it doesn't have the ability to do system or user because it is a system app. We have the app, the Office logo already there. But this is where you can do some really cool stuff now. You can still select Skype for Business.
Yeah.
And Publisher. My mother is very excited about the fact that Publisher is still there. Sure. Most organizations, you want to turn off access, please turn off access, go use access runtimes. Don't have access on your computers, because that's how you proliferate shadow IT for databases. And then you have the ability to deploy Office and Project. If you go and just do Project or Visio by themselves, on top of your existing Office installs, how the Office setup runs, it's going to get you to close out of all of your other apps as well. So there's caveats associated with this. Pay attention to it and understand how it is.
Also, there's a note there on so go down this rabbit hole for a moment on Office stuff. There's in the XML customization. We started out with the Office suite without Visio and Project in the suite. Then Microsoft released a read-only mode. That's not the right name. I get it wrong every time.
Unlicensed mode.
No. So they have unlicensed mode. You have shared activation mode, and then you also have a read-only mode. So, which is new. So unlicensed means you have no Office license. Read-only is where it will. So Visio and Project will function in a read-only mode. And if you have a valid license, it will step up and activate that level for you. And so we started deploying Visio and Project as part of our core suite. So what we did is we wrote you can make a shorter version of the XML for Visio and for Project. And there's I think match existing or something like that setting in the XML that lets you not have to do a full reinstall. Like, so the issue is if you've got 32-bit, you want it to install 32-bit Visio. If you've got 64, you want it to install 64-bit.
Always use 64. Stop deploying 32-bit. But that's
unless you have 32-bit and deployed because of some legacy compatibility, and you know, it's a stopgap.
Fix it.
Yeah, it is.
App Assure. Raise a support case. We'll work with you to fix it.
Yeah. Anyway, so here we go. Carry on.
Yep.
Fun stuff.
And then here you have the ability to actually put some controls around formatting. Most organizations will be using the Office Open Document format, but some are moving to the XML format. Doesn't really matter. You just want consistency for all of your staff. And then you have the ability to set your deployments. Obviously, you should be aiming towards getting to the monthly enterprise channel. Some organizations don't have the ability to do that, but you should try as hard as you can because it will make your life easier to implement new features. And this is where you can set if you need explicit versions to start on or stay on because there's an issue with the version that you're running. All of this to say, what it's actually doing is it's going and creating an XML file that sits underneath that does all the installer and handles all of that for you. So you can do a Win32 app or you can use this. It's 6 one, half a dozen the other, realistically.
Also, while we're on Office, config.office.com is where you go and manage all of your Office policies. We will not go down this rabbit hole. We did it before in a video. There is a video on our channel that's still valid and good. Some of the features may have changed a little bit, but it's still very comprehensive and talks about what's here.
And we had the Office Rangers on for that, and they did some amazing things in there.
Yep. So this is where you can actually come and do all your Office configuration. Awesome thing about it is the policies you configure here will actually target you wherever you sign in.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter what,
not for Windows sign-in.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what computer you're on. It's very nice. Anyway, all right,
cool.
Back to the apps. Here we go.
Yes, back to apps. Edge, not really relevant anymore. Previously, you needed it. This is where you can go and deploy different streams, but again, you can control that through settings catalog. It was back when Edge was the Chromium version of Edge wasn't the default on Windows, but it's not really relevant anymore. Web links. So you have 2 web links here. One's going to put it into the start menu. One's going to put it into company portal. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole because it's a link and a shortcut. And then that leaves us with 2 different options here, being the line of business application and the Windows app, Win32 app. Please use the Windows app, Win32 apps where possible, because it handles content delivery a lot better, although line of business apps do handle it much the same now. Did you know that, Adam?
Man, I have not ever touched a line of business app. I still don't know what they are. So
line of business apps is what was released first.
See, I drug you down that. I don't want to know, Steve. They don't want to know. Just ignore it. If we don't talk about it, then they won't try it, and it'll be great.
So there's certain scenarios where you need to understand what line of business apps are for and why they're important, which is typically going to be your AppX applications and your MSIX applications. If you're deploying those, go and deploy them through line of business apps. Fantastic. If you're deploying an MSI, don't. Go and use Win32 applications, because this model here doesn't handle nested MSIs well. It has to be a single file MSI. So you can't provide a custom config file sitting next to it. There's a whole heap of quirkiness associated with it. Whereas the MSIX bundle is actually pretty cool and works really well. And that's the same with the AppX and all of those components. But we're not going to demo that, because line of business apps, while they're useful, they were the first incarnation of application deployment in Intune on Graph, and it had limitations, which is why we ended up with the Windows app, or the Win32 app, which is awesome. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hit select.
All right.
All right. So I need to select an app package file. Okay, cool.
Uh-oh, we have to make one.
Oh, what's this Intune Win file format? Huh. All right. Let's cancel that. And we're going to go to where we are, where we've already planned everything. And what we're going to be needing to download is the Microsoft Win32 Content Prep Tool. There's docs about it. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole because it's docs. What we're going to talk about here, though, is we've already downloaded the Win32 Content Prep Tool, which will go and create a Win32 app. The app that we're going to deploy is Visual Studio Code on Windows. We've already downloaded that as well because we wanted to be able to step through that easily. So let's go to where we've downloaded it in our downloads, because that's where you download things.
How much can you say download?
I don't know. Let's find out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to properties, and you'll note here, because the file was downloaded,
it's got the web.
It's got the mark of the web, and we need to unblock that. So we're going to apply that, and we're done. So we now have the ability to run that application. We're going to go on an admin computer because it needs to run as admin, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Adam, but I'm pretty sure it's
not.
an admin. So.
Nope.
It doesn't?
Not. No.
Wow. Oh, I like that.
No. Or, I mean, I've been running it regularly without it. I don't think it needs it.
All right, let's do it. CD downloads. And then because I can't remember the commands because I don't use it all that often in my day job, I'm just going to do /?.
Actually, what's really great, Steve, is even if you don't have to put in the full, you just run the executable and it will prompt you for each of the items.
Oh, that's nice.
Yep.
So let's create a folder here because we don't want to do the whole downloads folder. VS Code. Oh, and drop that into VS Code. And because I'm lazy, I'm just going to go Control-C, and I'm going to go Control-V. All right, what's the setup file? It's this, F2, Control-A, Control-C, and then we go here, .exe, because we've hidden that. Output folder. Well, that's easy. We're just going to put it to downloads. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste that there. What's the catalog folder, Adam?
Once again, no clue. We don't use it. I've hit no every single time. Ben knew. Cool. Ben knew. He told us one time. There's a video. There's a video.
There's a video. Ben will explain it to you in the video that we probably won't put in below us.
I feel like it's related to like store apps, like AppX packages. I think
so, yeah.
Something. I don't know.
Yeah, that may well be it. Cool. So now we have our VS Code set up, x64 1.92.1.intune win file. Simple. So now what we do, we're going to go back to our portal and we go, oh, look, we can find that now in our downloads folder. And we're going to select that. When we click OK, you'll note that it's come through with just the name of the executable. If it's an MSI that we'd specified in there, it would pre-populate every bit of information that was included in there. So we're going to rename this to VS Code. Description I'm not really worried about, but note you now need to hit the edit description button, Adam, instead of just typing it in there. Because it supports rich text formatting.
Yeah. You know what it doesn't support anymore? GIFs.
It doesn't support.
It supported Markdown, and we were able to put Markdown GIFs. Well, it supports emojis because Windows supports emojis, but you can't embed a GIF in.
Nope.
Like we put in Markdown to. So the idea when we originally messed with that was the concept of what if you could record a installation video type thing, and it would surface it in the company portal. That'd be kind of cool. And then then one of the PMs saw it and they were like, "Oh, how'd you get there?" And then they ripped it out. Sorry. Didn't have anything
that,
nice.
That makes sense. So make sure you set your app version, even though it's not a required. It is super, super important, and you should always have the app version there so that you know when you need to update it. And don't sit there and go, oh, I'm never going to update this app. Yes, you are. Understand it. You are going to update it. Let's see if we can select a logo. I can't remember if you can. No. It wants certain file types, but it doesn't like that. Yes, ASP, PNG, JPEG. Let's just move on. All right. So the question comes back to, well, how do I install this app? Because I actually need to define that installation process. Simply, well, okay, what's the commands? VS Code, ls, and we're going to go VS Code. Oh, is it gonna /? Make sure you put the dot in front of it so it actually will invoke it.
Also, while he's doing that, one thing to point out is,
whoa,
this is like standard. If you've ever had to package application, this is exactly the same process you would go through for doing that. All we're doing is making a wrapper that makes a secured zip file that it can upload into Intune as a bundle. That's all it is. I want to demystify that whole thing of just everything from here on is just imagine that you had access directly to your source media and you just wanted to run the command line for it. That's what you're doing next. It's a normal command line that you would run if you were running it directly from a command prompt or double click it on it or whatever.
Exactly. It's the same process that you follow if you're deploying the app via config manager. Think of this page on the program page here as where you're defining your deployment type. Think of this page as defining your application. And that's exactly the same. So then you're just going through and building out what that looks like. So we've gone and done our /? and we've got our, hey, this is what you need to do. And we're going to run /very silent. So let's grab our executable because I'm really good at typing stuff. Control C, and we're going to go Control V .exe, very silent. And I think vert silent. Great typing. Did I spell that right? Yes. And then we need to specify an uninstall command. But I don't necessarily always have an uninstall command, right? But it's required. What do you do here, Adam?
I just copy and paste the install command. Because why not?
The other one that I've seen is cmd.exe.
Well, yeah. Because that'll just open and close it. If you do a /k on it, it'll just hang the whole thing. It'll make it time out.
So let's follow Adam's process. You should find the uninstall command. We're not going to go through that and down that rabbit hole.
You had it in the window there. It's likely just uninstall.
No, I don't think it is. I had a quick look and I didn't see it there.
Holy crap. Okay.
More importantly, let's add a switch here. No restarts.
And then there's a /all users, but we already downloaded the system version of the installer, so we don't need that part.
But very, very, very important. Always put no restarts if there is an option for no restarts. Realistically, what you should be doing here is determine behavior based on return codes and depending upon these return codes. If you have it so your app is doing hey, this app may just force a restart, it can cause some bad experiences during the out-of-box process. Let's leave it at that. This is new since we last talked about it, which is the allow available uninstall. We're going to set that to no because our uninstall command isn't correct.
Yeah, so we don't really want that there anyway, so no big deal.
Exactly.
But it does mean if you forced uninstall later as a required, this would blow up as well.
That's right. But this is really cool in the sense that you can go and deploy an app and say, well, if you don't need it anymore, uninstall it. And customers will, end users will definitely do that, but sure. The install behavior here, which is pretty cool.
Go do me a favor, Steve. We gotta go hit back, and then I put a message in the chat. I'd like you to go test this out because I was totally wrong.
Go here, go edit, and we're going to hit enter, and we're going to go control. No. So when you're using VMs, make sure you use the. So it doesn't
work. That didn't work at all. You got to copy the whole thing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Right. Because I just did the. Hey, yeah, I'm just going to do the link.
Yeah. No, that's not what I. There you go. Ready. Now it does say it's not supported, but we're gonna find out. There's a practical application to it, I promise.
Exactly.
It's worth knowing if this works.
So we're saying it's a system install. If your app needs additional return codes, add them in there, but these are the defaults for MSI, and it'll be the same for the VS Code installer that we're using. 64-bit, yes, some people still have 32, but 64-bit. And the minimum OS, well, we're going to support 1607. We're going to live on the edge. You can go in and put additional controls here using scripts, registries, etc., but we don't care enough. The one thing that we didn't track, Adam, is our detection rule.
Yep.
So what we can do here is we can go and check to see if a file exists on the device, much the same as you did with Config Manager. So we're just going to select a file. And because I am forever forgetting all of this, I'm just going to quickly install VS Code and get the path that it installs to.
I can grab it for you real fast. I've got it installed.
Well, hang on. How about we just go here and go, well, that folder
just copy that. That's close enough. So ideally, you'd want to hit the registry location if it exists. But for now, to get us through this, this is a great example of how you can do this as well.
Yeah. So the thing to note here, and why I'm not auto punching it through, is if we sit there and say, check if Microsoft VS Code exists, yes, it would say that it installs and we're happy, but we then can't handle changes of file versions. And you really want to handle changing file versions because otherwise you're going to not be a happy camper.
It'll keep reinstalling over the top of it if you don't.
Yes. So we have our path. Let's go to our path. And here we have our VS Code. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go code.exe and a detection method, and we're going to check version equals to, actually no, greater than or equals to. And we know it's 1.92.1. But if we go here and we're just going to show you where to get that information from. If we go to details, you'll see product version, file version. Those are the important ones. It'll be file version that they're using at this point. So we're going to put .0. Associate 32-bit to 64 is sure, you can do that. Ben will scream at me and go, yes, you need to set this to 64-bit, but sure, whatever. Hi, Ben. I'm looking forward to the review. We go next. Dependencies. We're not having any dependencies. We're not planning for any dependencies. We don't want to have any dependencies because dependencies are awesome, but they also can cause a lot of complications if you need to update one of the applications in the chain. So pay attention to that, and the maximum that you can use is 100. Supersedence, maximum is 11. Keep on top of that. You will cause problems if you put them in looping on each other. It's called race condition. Fun to watch, not to actually experience. Anything else you want to say about super sends there, Adam, or we're going to move on very rapidly?
Oh no, please carry on, sir. This is all basic application related stuff at this point.
And then we're going to make it required for all devices. And this is where we can go in and specify some pretty cool stuff around how we're going to deploy it, whether it's include, exclude. Because it's all devices, it is include by default. You can't do an exclude on all devices, surprisingly. You can set your toast notifications, which are the messages that pop up here if you don't have an external screen attached. Delivery optimization, for the most part, you're just wanting to leave this as the default of download in the background. But if you have an application that you need to get there quickly, technically you can go and change this to foreground, and it'll go and pull it down in the foreground, and could impact your users because it will take more resources from the delivery optimization throttling.
Did they change the text on that note right there? The delivery optimization priority? I swear those words are new.
Probably.
Not the drop down, but the delivery optimization priority. I'm pretty sure it was like download or install behavior or something.
Yeah, I think so.
More vague. So because this is all of a sudden way more clear on what they're saying there.
Yes, I agree. You should always use device time zone, but there could be scenarios where you need UTC if you're a follow the sun.
Well, and that only matters if you're going to set those things, specific date and time and stuff.
But the fact that you can call that out is pretty awesome, and it very much mirrors up with what we had in Config Manager. So I'm just going to close that out because I didn't make any changes.
While you're here, click on filters.
I have no filters. Or do I?
Well, we don't. Yeah, we don't have any built. But this would be where you could build filters to then be more granular. We'll get into a filters video at some point, probably.
Yes. Cool. We've got our assignments and we have our dancing banana.
Oh, you're going to make it go back to assignments. You're going to need to go make it available to all users so that we can see it. So, no, that's fine. No. Well, whatever. Okay, you can still leave the required. So then you do it. So one note here: you cannot use the same group in both places.
Correct.
So, because like for our org, we have some required apps that we want to go down every box, and so we do all devices. But but then people want to uninstall them or see them or know that they're there or whatever. So we do exactly like this. We do required to all devices, available to all users, and it lets it show and show both ways.
Nice,
fun stuff.
Yes, cool. We've got our banana there. We're going to hit create, and you'll note that this will take a little bit of time to process because it's still uploading the content. So it's 100 meg and it needs to upload. So this is where it's different to the store app in that the store, it's going to be there pretty much instantaneously and deploying instantaneously. For VS Code and a Win32 application where we've created the Intune Win file, it's going to take a little bit longer. Simple as that. Cool. So I think that's pretty much the Windows apps. Let's keep powering on while we're doing that. We're going to just do the right thing and we're going to leave that page going and we're going to go aka.ms/in and we're going to go to the Intune portal and we're going to go and step into Mac OS because that's going to take a little bit of time to do some processing as well. So it's going to be a bit easier. So we have a few things around Mac OS where you'll see that we've got some older OSs and test apps that we've deployed previously, but no company portal, because if you recall, when we deployed company portal, we actually did it as a script. I believe if we go Mac OS.
That is correct, because we couldn't get it right.
That's right. And it's actually the recommended way through documentation now, is you go and deploy the script and it goes and deploys that out. So we're going to keep using that, even though, and I'm going to call this out because it's pretty cool. And we've added a whole heap of stuff in here, being Microsoft. We now have the ability to use the DMG file and the PKG file immediately and just go and install that. So you can just go and download your DMG and deploy it out, or your PKG.
Ooh, fancy bits.
Yeah. So this is new. So DMG is the equivalent of like an ISO, and PKG is the equivalent of a
MSI.
Yeah. So that's the scenario, and then they also have line of business app where you can do PKG, but it was not fully functioned. And then there. Oh, okay. I think interesting. So previously. There was also Intune Mac files here as well. So it handled it there, but it looks like that's been removed. So we have the ability also to go and just set our Defender policy, which is awesome, and same with the Office as well. Edge is actually important in macOS world because it's not there by default, so you can go and deploy that out and configure it for your macOS devices. So we're not going to use any of these not because they don't work, not because they're not useful, not because they're not awesome. It's just the scenario that we're demoing today is to deploy VS Code, and the most efficient way to do that is to go and use the shell script. And I'm just going to click OK there, and I'm going to go to Mac OS under Apps. Oh, sorry. Yep. And go pause. Cool. So now we're over in the Mac OS space, and we're going to go to scripts, and we're going to set a very simple policy. So what I've already got here is our VS Code shell script. I'm going to download the raw file because it needs to be a SH file, and you'll see that I've got it there. And let's go and minimize that one. And we're going to add a shell script. We're going to go install VS Code for Mac OS because we want to be descriptive, lowercase m, and we hit next.
And the repo that he's pulling that from is a Microsoft managed repo that has some great examples in it. And it's actually got a lot of good content in there to kind of help jumpstart you and shortcut a lot of common tasks that folks need to do. So it's pretty cool. Exactly.
So what you'll see here, we've imported that script. If we go over and just have a quick look, code review, what are we doing? We're going in and hitting the web URL to download the latest version. We're getting the app name, all the information associated with the app, so it can be published. And then it goes through and handles the auto updater and everything associated with it. And it's got a whole heap of scripted stuff in there. And there's heaps of apps in the list that you can go and grab and do whatever you need to do with. So do recommend it if you're doing Mac OS management. There's a whole repo here for the shell Intune samples.
And I would imagine, I haven't looked at it, but I would imagine that most of the stuff should be just swap out a few variable lines, and you could reuse this for any additional apps. So probably what's on his screen there on the lines 26 through, if you'd stop scrolling, I could tell you, 26 through 33, and probably would just work to swap out other stuff.
Yes, I'd assume so too. Note, you need to do your own testing. It has the limited liabilities, everything associated. Cool. So let's see, what does it tell us we need to do for signed in user? I think it's, normally it tells us somewhere. Doesn't actually say. I'm going to assume we want to run this as the signed-in user because we want to use it in the user context. Makes sense. How often we want to run it? Well, hide notifications. Nah, we're not going to hide them. How often? Yeah, we're not going to run it often. Let's run it once a day. And we can retry if it's not successful. We then add all devices. Don't do that in your environment. Target only your Mac devices, but that's what we do. And we hit add. And that's it. We've now deployed our VS Code to our Mac. So that's all of the Windows or the client OS scenarios documented as far as we're going to document them in today's videos. You'll see in the Windows space, we have VS Code Insiders and VS Code. One is from Store App, one is Windows App. They both function the same when they land on the device. It just comes down to how you maintain it and keep it up to date and associated components. So let's quickly jump into iOS and Android, although they're pretty straightforward. What we do is we publish from managed, was it business.apple.com, which will probably won't auto sign in, but let's see.
Definitely no. Good luck.
Ye of little faith. As you can see, I'm lazy and I store my passwords. I'm just going to quickly put in my message here for you, 730636 to verify. Of course, I definitely trust this browser. And then from here, we have the ability to go and grab apps and books.
And I believe I don't know if we did this or not in our early videos or not.
I can't remember either. I wonder, is there a visual?
Could be. It'd be neat.
I don't think
if you went to Visual Studio Code website that they would have a. Oh wait, it was it. I saw it. Unless it said Visual Code. I think it was called Visual Code. There's too many things with code in the name.
Just thinking.
Well,
no.
Yeah, that second one, that's the one I saw real quick as you were navigating away. That is not it. Definitely not it.
No, that's not it. And neither is clone in VS Code or Visual Studio Code, the Essentials, although it's a book, which is quite entertaining because you can buy the book and deploy that out into the via Intune, which we don't need to do that, but it's interesting. So let's go here. We're going to quickly throw a filter on here because it's just going to make it a bit easier. We're using an iPhone, and let's go and search for, and what don't we have? Let's see if we can add that's only category. Let's find, I know what we need to include because every organization should have this. Viva Engage. Try it.
Mike, if you're watching this, I'm still not installing Viva Engage.
So we have our used, nope, wrong tenant, Intune training. We're going to sit here and we're going to order one license for Adam because it has to go on his device.
All right.
Fine. And we hit get and it's done. So what we should see now is if we go over here to, I'm going to go this way because it gives us a little bit more control. And it's not there because I am silly. It is
tenant administration, sir.
Correct.
Connectors.
Correct. So then if we go
He's a little rusty on this.
He is.
Apple DPP tokens.
There. It just shows that Adam's been working through this.
Oh yeah,
a little bit quicker than a little bit more often than I have. So we've just done the sync, and now if we go back to apps in our environment, it should sync pretty quickly. And there's our Viva engaged. So you'll note that we have the ability to do an iOS app, iOS store app, or an iOS volume purchasing program app.
What is the difference, Steve? Oh, wait, you were asking me. Okay,
I was going to ask you, but I'm happy to explain it.
No, I'll tell you because I've been through this. So the store app will give the user more control on a company-owned and managed device, and it will prompt the user anytime you attempt to do the install or try to push an update. The user will have to respond to it, and it won't come down silently. That's the main user-facing experience problem. The secondary piece of this, the alternative is, so the VPP one will come down and be forced down. User gets no option, comes down through company portal, and they don't have any say over it. The second piece of it that's more important is the MAM policies, MAM versus MDM. So we talked about filters a minute ago. And we've not gotten into these types of policies, but when you're looking at trying to set policies around especially your office applications or any of the apps that are going to have company data in them, you can deploy those policies through Intune. Well, you can deploy them as MAM, which is mobile application management policies, and those will only those will target the app regardless of where it is. If you sign in with your company credential, it'll apply the MAM policy. MDM policies, mobile device management, will only apply to MDM managed devices. And in that case, from a filtering and targeting perspective and from a policy perspective, you have to deploy the application as a VPP application in order for the device to recognize it as a managed application, MDM managed application.
Has that changed? Because previously it wasn't the case. You could just send down the P list and it would just handle it.
Man, you can apply MAM policies regardless of how it's deployed, but you cannot deploy. So if you were to go into the application policies, there's device-based policies and there's application-based policies, and the targeting of those are specific to how the device checks in for that device. So if you plan on fully managing your stuff and targeting MDM, and you want to maybe have different policies for managed devices versus personal devices, then it's a must that you go with the VPP application.
Definitely.
So hopefully that helps.
And the thing is, VPP doesn't require a DUNS ID. You can just go and use any Apple ID to sign up for it. So that's an important thing to call out as well. So even if you don't have a DUNS for auto registration, you can still use VPP apps. So we're going to quickly go in and we're going to deploy the application as required to all devices. Again, we have the ability sitting here to change licensing types. So you can change it to user license. If we had a VPN for iOS set up, you can go and set a VPN. So you can then start using the per app VPN tunneling scenario, which is awesome. Uninstall and device removal, totally. You can also sit there and configure whether your user can remove it or not. We're going to say no, it is not removable. And we can also prevent cloud backup of the app data, which is awesome. That's new.
Yep.
And you can also, as I said, prevent auto update, but why would you? That's silly. And you can do user or device licensing. So,
and what's great about the VPN piece there is you have to go create a VPN policy, and then you'll see VPN items listed in the list. And so if you've got a supported VPN that you can run on the device that supports Intune, that Intune supports creating policies for, which there's numerous, then you can create a per app VPN tunnel for it. I will say that in digging into that, the Microsoft tunnel, the Microsoft tunnel VPN has more options than other third-party VPN.
That's not entirely surprising.
Yeah. So anyway, just something to note.
It's pretty cool. So we're just going to hit review and save, and we're going to save that through, and that will go and deploy that out to my test iPhone here. And then the last, other thing to call out here is obviously we said you can go and get store app. We can do web app, so just a web link onto the desktop. And we then have the ability to do a built-in app. So this is where you can go and remove built-in apps. I believe, let's go and select that and see what it does. Select app. And what are you searching for?
Search for like notes or something, or mail.
No.
So I'm not sure what that covers. That seems strange.
Yep. I think, well, let's just do Outlook. We'll go next.
Because Outlook's not a built-in app.
No. I think this might be, I don't know. Let's see what it does.
Probably nothing. It's probably legacy.
I'd say so. Looking at it. But we can deploy it in much the same as we would previously. So what does it appear like in the list? Refresh. Outlook. Okay, so it's just a store app. No, it's not. All right. I don't know what that is.
There's a link.
I'm
reading it.
Built-in iOS.
It looks like this came about as in earlier versions of Intune.
Okay. That makes sense.
It still says instead of using the managed iOS store app or managed Android app, instead we recommend that you use the built-in app type. By using the built-in app type, you have the ability, additional flexibility to edit and delete Microsoft 365 apps.
Okay.
Weird.
Yep. It shows how often we've used it, but some customers obviously are. And then the last one, which is an interesting one, is if you've created in-house applications, you can go and deploy them as an IPA file to your iOS, but you'd need to put in controls and everything associated to allow them to run on your device. So, yeah, if you're doing that, you know what you're doing.
And did you point out on the assignments? Sorry, the difference on there's available for enrolled or unenrolled devices.
I did not call that out. So let's go here, go to properties and edit.
So you'll notice, so you're on a VPP one, right?
Yes.
So the VPP one only work for MDM managed devices, which is enrolled devices. And if you go to the App Store ones, they'll be listed as enrolled or not enrolled devices, with or without enrollment. So that's a MAM device. So that'd be somebody who has Company Portal, and then they can go to Company Portal and they'll see the app listed and be able to install it from there.
Yep, without having to handle that. So yeah, nice and easy. That's a good call out. And then I think the last one we'll go through quickly is the Android. We typically will only use the managed Google Play Store, but you do have the ability to use the traditional App Store. It's the same scenario as iOS. Users get prompted, etc. Or you're wanting to make it just available from the store, and it doesn't exist in the managed Play Store. Web link built in is the same, line of business app the same, and enterprise app, system app is add. Oh, okay. So this is where you then have your system developer or system manufacturer having an app, which we don't have.
Clearly, we have no idea what we're doing with this one. So go to the App Store.
Exactly.
This is a semi-comprehensive video to get you started. Click the help link and find the other stuff.
Yes. So here, interestingly enough, oh, look, we can only sync. There we go. So what was the app we used? Viva Engage. So we have our Viva Engaged here. And we're going to select that, and that should appear in our list. And we now have the option for select, and we can see the tenant that we're in, happy days. And that should be selected. This is where I find that we struggle with some of these. Yeah, I think that just went through. Let's hit sync. And we go Viva. And it should appear eventually in there for us once we hit select. And that's the same as if we go to the Android store here. It's now going to pop up the Android store in an iframe. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. It's just got to provide the URL. And you can see all the different versions of Android that have been supported in there. And you'll note that it only goes to 11. After that, most organizations moved across to the managed store. Because again, it's free. So,
yep.
You go in here and then we go edit. And you have with or without enrollment, which is different to iOS where you had to do it in that scenario. We got required, available, etc., etc. Again, we're going all devices because we're awesome. And then you can set priority of how often it will update, and you can postpone it. You can do high priority, or you can just leave it as default. Obviously, we're leaving it as default because we don't need to change that. So that's all of the apps. That's all the app types. We've gone through pretty quickly-ish. It's only been an hour. Now let's go quickly across and jump onto some of our computers. So I'm just going to jump onto my Windows. To note, and I'll be very clear on this, just very quickly, you'll note that there's no Chrome OS or Linux in here. Chrome OS, you need to deploy that via G Suite, and Linux is just a Linux script that you run on the device. So super, super simple. So I'm just going to quickly jump across to my test device, my test Windows device to start with. And what we're going to see here, just close that out. What we're going to see here is if we go to the company portal, which is already on the device, we can go screen that because we like the screen. And here we should see application.
Sorry, Steve, your audio is getting flaky.
My audio has just dropped out.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what you'll see here is we've got the two different versions of Visual Studio that we've published. We haven't got the icons there. You should have the icons, but we just didn't. So if we go and select VS Code, we have our nice little dancing GIF, which makes Adam really happy and excitable.
Once again, if you had to like go inject a license key in there or something like that, and you had a little animation of go here, do this, click this, like I find that this is incredible functionality to have. Now, obviously, you got to host the GIF somewhere. I copied a random link off the internet, so why not? Totally works.
Yes, exactly.
Microsoft, please don't fix this.
So you'll see that Visual Studio Code's not installed on this device yet. So let's go here and we're just going to hit quick install, and it'll go through and do that installation. And you'll note that it's downloading it and handling all of that for us. And you'll see it's bringing up that toast notification to say, hey, look, it's there. So we get our dancing banana. And it's really disconcerting that it doesn't ever actually finish dancing.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So you can see that it's going to come up with those toast notifications. And if we go back to apps, just to get the banana off the screen, and we go to Visual Studio Code Insider, you'll see that the default text that was provided is there. The interesting thing is the version number is lower than the Visual Studio Code version that we've deployed, but that's okay. And we can go and use the install process. And you'll see here, it's going to tell you, well, if you've already got this on your computer, we're going to update to the latest version. Done. We're not going to hit install because trying to install two applications at the same time is bad. So This is more just to demonstrate that it exists and the process will work. It's going to go through and complete that download shortly. And yeah, all right. So let's quickly jump across to our Mac. Nope. Let's make sure we're on the right device. Our Mac device here, which is just sitting down next to my computer. We're going to go to the company portal and we're going to quickly sign in there. This computer is set up to be using Platform SSO and should all just auto sign in with everything that we need. So let's see if it's going to play ball and do exactly what we want it to do. If we go across to apps, it's not there yet. So let's hit, actually, no, it doesn't appear in apps. What we should be doing is going to Launchpad, seeing if it's there. It's not. So we're going to hit check status. Check status is the equivalent of sync for macOS, and it's going to go and check to see if it's there. While that's going through the process, I'm just going to quickly flick across to my iPhone here. You can see that it's running and we should already be signed in, but we're not. So it's just going to take a beat for that to occur. While that's doing that, nope, it's loading up pretty quickly. Awesome. And we're going to go to apps, and you can see that it hasn't brought anything through yet. But if we go to the company portal website, we're just going to go and quickly check that online. And if we quickly bounce back across to our Mac, what you'll see here is if I go to Launchpad, I now have VS Code installed. That was how quick it went through that process of installing. When it starts up for the first time, it does the verification, but there's our VS Code installed. That's pretty quick, right? So I'm pretty excited about that. Quickly, we'll go back to our Windows device, and if we go and look at our Toast, you can see it's gone through and said it was installed literally right now from a timing point of view. So, and we go in here and you'll see that the dancing banana is happy, and we have the ability to reinstall it because we have an uninstall command as well as an install command. So let's quickly.
That's actually no. It would have an actual uninstall button there. That's just a normal.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thing.
I lie. Right. So what we should see here is our list of apps on our iPhone, but it hasn't come through yet. Did I deploy it? Let's have a look. If we go to apps, iOS, oh, why have I still got my iOS? And we go Viva Engaged. Yes, it is deployed. Yeah, it's saying it's deployed and available. So why has it not appeared on our iOS device? Let's go here. Just doing a quick look. Oh, it's because it's already installed. I didn't see it. There's Viva Engaged, and it's on our device. And then the last one that we're going to go across to, if I can get it unlocked, and go here to that one there.
Actually, before you leave the iOS,
okay.
I think I've reconciled what the built-in means. So built-in is Intune's Apple or iOS application catalog that they curate that doesn't require you to go to ABM and go do VPP. So it's the replacement for doing the VPP flavors of applications, where it's like they're already just curating built for Intune applications. And like looking through the built-in list, there are apps called like Zoom for Intune. There's actual specific flavors of the apps built for Intune management.
They probably have the MAM components baked into them as well.
Yes, exactly. So that,
sense.
Anyway, so that's and I'm testing it out on my other phone right now. So
we'll see. Cool. Yeah. So I've now just jumped across to my Android, and in here we're going to flick it up, and you'll see that I've got Viva Engaged installed in the apps here, if I go personal, and you can see that that's auto installed, and it's gone through that process. So, and that's all happy days. So we have that installed. Obviously, in this scenario, we're using work profiles because work profiles are awesome. But I think we can call that pretty much successful, Adam. We actually have delivered all of the
apps across all the estate.
Yeah. And from a reporting point of view, if we go in here, what should occur and what we should see come through eventually is it will tell us that the apps have installed successfully. So if we go to the Mac OS, we're not going to see it in there because it's a script. If we go to Windows and we go to VS Code, it's still not processed through on that one, but we can see it here where we've had it mandatory installed for our Win32 app. It's already there and saying it's installed on our 3 devices, which is pretty awesome. The Insider one will take a little bit longer to process, and I'll handle all of that.
Yeah, I had some VMs baking over here in the background, so that's probably helping with some of the inventory there.
Oh, definitely. And let's have a quick look to see if it's come through on the iOS. No. And Android's probably the same as well. If we go to Viva Engaged, and it hasn't come through. But at the end of the day, we've seen it on the device. We know that it can take up to 20 minutes to synchronize the data back up into Intune. So I don't think we need to be too concerned about showing you the net result. So, yeah, that's apps.
Yeah, man. I think we nailed it.
I think so, too.
So
obviously, feel free to tell us in the comments where we went wrong, which we expect you will.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
I mean, let's be honest. We started knowing that we were going to do 2 things and that we knew, and then there's a bunch of other things that were like, yeah, it's close enough. So, so if we glazed over something you want more info on, feel free to go Google it and research it yourself.
Yes. And do reach out, obviously, but also understand we don't know how to package every application in your environment.
But there's a lot of people on the internet that share that information freely. There's something Ninja, something what there's. But honestly, if it's me, I'm going to use Patch by PC for most of my packaging needs. Not sponsored, but you know, whatever. Patch by PC.
And the intern works over there now, so.
Oh, that's right. And the other guys, Jake.
Yeah. Yes.
Ben, everybody.
Yes.
Anyway,
exactly.
All right. Well, so we are at the end, and we're not going to ramble on any longer. Nope. This is very long. Hopefully you guys like this format. If you've made it this far, let us know. We appreciate you sticking around.
Indeed.
We hope. I mean, I even learned something as we went through this. So, like, this is you know, it helps us all here. And appreciate all the comments when you guys reply to people. We can't sit here and answer everybody's questions, so we definitely appreciate the community
very much
answering things. And sorry this took so long to get the next video out, but hey, we're doing our best. Yeah, so
we're working on it.
Hopefully you're living life just the same as we are, because honestly, I've been catching fish with my 7-year-old daughter and having a blast. So yeah. Deal with it. All right, folks. Good talking to you, Steve.
Thanks,
See you later.
See you, mate.